Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. Yesterday we were reading Srimad Bhagavatam in that third canto, chapter 10 and text 9. There was mention of Dviparardha time. So I wanted to know what it means, Prabhu.
Dvi means two, and Parardha is the lifespan of, half of life span of Brahma. It's called Para Ardha. Ardha means half, and Para means the supreme or great. So great lifespan in the universe is Brahma. Brahma has the greatest lifespan. So Brahma's lifespan is called Dviparardha. So first 50 years are called Parardha, and second 50 years are called Parardha. So that is called Dviparardha. The total lifespan of Brahma is called Dviparardha.
So Prabhuji, the planets above, that is the upper planetary systems, they don't get submerged in the devastating water till the end of Brahma's lifetime.
Yes, that's right. Up to Swargaloka, everything is devastated, but Jana, Tapa, Mahar, and Satyaloka, they don't. But also during devastation, the water almost reaches to Janaloka. So doesn't really submerge the Janaloka, but Janaloka people sometimes they become afraid and they migrate to, during the devastation night, they generally migrate to the upper lokas, Mahar or Tapaloka.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
So they have capability to move upper planets without anything?
Yes. All the people from, upper planetary system, they have the ability to go anywhere they want to go.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, I was just thinking that the purport Prabhupada says that how they fly in their own aeroplanes to the upper places when the devastation happens. I was just wondering that each of them have their own aeroplanes. Is that right?
Actually, the people of Jana, Tapa, and Mahar Loka in Satyaloka, they don't need any airplane. They may have airplane, but they don't need airplane to travel. They can travel. Their body itself is full of mystic powers. They can travel anywhere they like.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Gokul Tarani Mataji, you can ask.
Sure, Prabhuji, thank you. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavats Pranams. When Lord Krishna supplied unlimited clothes to Draupadi, were anyone in the assembly able to see Lord Krishna?
The devotees like Bhishma and Pandavas, they can see the hand of Krishna. They can see that this is none other than Krishna himself. But, nobody actually could see Krishna personally present there. They could see the sari being supplied unlimitedly.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, doesn't it trigger like this is something extraordinary for anyone, like even Dushasana?
Yes, definitely. It is. But when you're talking about 5,000 years ago, know that people like Duryodhana and Dushasana also had some mystic powers. They had Mayavi powers. They could fight with, a mystic power. So they think, oh, this is some mystic, Siddhi Draupadi may have. Therefore, they don't really feel wonderstruck with that. Just like, when Krishna showed his universal form to Duryodhana. Duryodhana and Shikuni, they thought, oh, this is just some Maya or some mystic powers. The demons generally have mystic powers. So they thought, oh, this is also Krishna has some just mystic powers, which I don't have, but he has. That's okay.
Makes sense, Prabhu. Thank you.
Shachandan Gaurang Prabhuji, you can ask.
In the purport, like we read, the Bhishmadev went to Vaikuntha Loka. So, are the Vasus actually belong to Vaikuntha Loka, or is it for liberation? Is it to demonstrate liberation is easy if they come to the Matsya Loka, like Bhuloka?
I didn't understand your question, Prabhu.
So are Vasus originally belong to Vaikuntha? That is first question. Follow up is, if Bhishmadev achieved Vaikuntha Loka, is it to demonstrate that liberation is easier from Bhuloka?
Well, Bhishma is an eternal associate of Krishna. Okay.
Oh,
And,
okay.
He comes to this material world only when Krishna desires to have him in the material world to assist him in his pastimes. But Vasu becoming Bhishma is like we have discussed many times before also, like Drona and Dhara, they becoming Yashoda and Nanda. Okay, so Yashoda and Nanda, they actually eternally reside in the spiritual world, but when they come to this world, Drona and Dhara also enter in their bodies to relish Krishna's pastimes. Okay, so Drona and Dhara are like a eternal expansion of Nanda and Yashoda in the material world, you can say. So similarly, Vasus also, they live in the material world. They have some role to play in the material world. And they are not necessarily expansion, like, Vasu, one of the Vasus is not expansion of Bhishma Deva necessarily, but he enters into the body of Bhishma when, just to exhaust his curse or karma that he generated. But Bhishma is eternal associate of the Lord.
So Bhishma is actually, though is Vasu, but he is eternal associate of Lord. That's all.
No, the Vasu actually enters into the body of Bhishma, let's say that way.
I didn't get that, Prabhu, but Vasu enters into the body of Bhishma. Means Vasu and Bhishma are two different Atmas or only one?
Different personalities.
Different Atmas?
Sometime in the same body, there could be, more than one living entities. Just like I said, Nanda and Yashoda, they also have Drona and Dhara in their personalities. Okay.
Oh, okay. I don't know this, Prabhu. This is a new thing. Thank you, Prabhu.
It is actually inconceivable. I mean, even I was surprised when I read that first time in Shriram Swami's explanation on this tattva, but it's actually more or less inconceivable for us. We cannot really understand how this happens. But the yogis who have the siddhis, the siddhi of Parakaya Pravesh, they can understand and appreciate this.
Oh, Parakaya Pravesh is possible even when the Jiva is living. I thought like Parakaya Pravesha is only when the Jiva leaves, another Jiva can enter.
No, it is possible in either cases. It can be possible when the living entity leaves, or it's possible how the ghost and the other living entities enter.
Okay.
Right? If the ghostly being can enter, why not the yogis and the great personalities like Vasus?
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
So Prabhu, Bhishma is already a Vasu, right? So another Vasu is entering like that. That's what it means.
Bhishma is actually eternal associate from Parthasarthi Loka. Prabhupada mentions actually somewhere that Bhishma eternally resides in Parthasarthi Loka with Krishna. So there's a Loka called Parthasarthi Loka where Krishna and Arjuna are there on the chariot, and Bhishma Dev is also there on his chariot. Everybody's fully ready with the armor and everything, but there's no war. So there's eternally the instructions of Bhagavad Gita goes on. Krishna keeps giving instruction, Arjuna keeps asking question, and then Bhishma also in between asks the questions, and Krishna keeps giving the nectar, unlimited nectar of Bhagavad Gita.
Wow. And also, Prabhu, I was just thinking that you said two living entities. That can happen only in the material world, right? In the spiritual world, we have our own original spiritual body. It's not like two living entities living in one spiritual body, right?
In spiritual world, everyone is Satchidananda Vigraha. So there's no question of body or entering into another's body. Yeah. There's no difference between soul and body in the spiritual world.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Sorry, Krishna Prabhuji, follow to that question. Means there is no Paramatma and Atma, only Atma.
Yes, only Atma and Krishna is there personally. So there is no need of Paramatma.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Shirsha Mataji, you can ask question.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. Yesterday we were reading Srimad Bhagavatam, so I would like to know a few sentences of one purport, Prabhu. The prayers offered by Brahma cannot be chanted by anyone. Prabhu, it's 40 verse. Sorry, I was typed wrong. 40. Hari.
Okay.
So last sentences I would like to know, Prabhu, in this purport. The Lord certainly fulfills all desires in the transcendental loving service, but he cannot fulfill the whims of non-devotees even when such casual devotees offer him the best of prayers.
Okay. So this is indicating the loving relationship between the Lord and his devotees. The Lord fulfills all the desires of his devotees. Like, Srila Prabhupada casually just mentioned near Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan that we should have a temple here. And many years later, there's a temple there. But he cannot fulfill the desires of non-devotees because non-devotees generally have desires either to enjoy the unrestricted sense gratification or to harm others. Like, say, for example, Vrikasura. Vrikasura, he was the demon, and his mentality was so heinous. Therefore, Narada, understanding his mentality, advised him to worship Lord Shiva. Because he knew Lord Vishnu, if he worships Lord Vishnu, he will go on worshipping Lord Vishnu, but he will never get his cherished desire. His desire was that I can touch anyone's head with my hand and his head should burst. Lord Vishnu will never ever be fulfilling such a desire. Even if somebody worshipped him for eternity or for a very, very long time, Lord Vishnu will not be fulfilling the desires. Like that. Okay. So, therefore, it is mentioned here that Krishna, or Lord Vishnu, does not fulfill the desires of non-devotees, even if they worship him with choicest prayers. Because their devotion is temporary, they are called, that's why Prabhupada mentions casual devotees. Casual devotee means sometime I like, so I will chant, or sometime I will worship Krishna. That is called casual devotee.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yes.
Therefore, I think the Vaishnava acharyas like Guru Goswami, they generally say, there's a prayer in, I think, Bhakti Sampradayo also, Gopi's prayer. And they say, my dear friend, if you want to remain attached to your family and bodily enjoyment, then do not go to Keshi Ghat, because Krishna is there, standing there in threefold bending form, playing on his flute. You will lose all the desires, for enjoying in the material world. What to speak of, desire for harming others. Those desires cannot remain. So if somebody sincerely worships Krishna, not casually, sincerely worships Krishna, he will be purified. And then, Krishna is obliged to fulfill all the desires of his devotee.
Those are spiritual desires, or any desire?
Spiritual or even desires for sense enjoyment. Like, Dhruva Maharaj, he had a desire to have the kingdom, which is much, much more superior to his father, grandfather, or even great-grandfather, Brahma. There is a material desire, it's not a spiritual desire. But Krishna fulfilled even that desire in an unparalleled way. So if somebody has desire for sense gratification, or sense enjoyment, Krishna can fulfill that desire of his devotees. But the devotee has to be Ananya devotee, unflinching devotee, not a casual devotee who sometimes worships like Prabhupada gives example, the demigod worshippers. He gives the example of Kali, Kali Bhakta, or devotee of Kali. So he worships Kali and says, Mother Kali, if you fulfill my desire, I will offer you a sacrifice of a goat. So by grace of Kali, his desire is fulfilled. So but he doesn't offer the sacrifice to Kali. He forgets about it. So Mother Kali comes in the dream. Dear, sir, you had promised that you will offer me the sacrifice of a goat. Where is the sacrifice? No, mother, it's so costly. I cannot afford to offer you a goat. But you promised. No, but I cannot afford. It's too costly. He said, okay, if it's too costly, then catch a pig. Pigs are, generally in India, villages, pigs are everywhere. She said, just catch a pig and offer me. So he said, yes, okay, I'll offer the pig. But after some time, he forgot even that. And Mother Kali appeared. What happened? Now you offered the pig, right? Why are you not offering that? Say, Mother, it's too difficult to catch a pig. Mother Kali said, nonsense. You promised and you can't even take trouble of catching a pig. Okay, at least offer me a fly. He said, Mother, there are so many flies around you, why don't you catch one yourself? So this is like casual devotee. Doesn't have any loving relationship, just selfish purpose that, okay, I will worship, I will do something so that I can get out of, this worship. Doesn't have any program or desire to perpetually worship the deity.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sure.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Follow up to that question. So, means just as we are saying that non-devotees' desires are not fulfilled by Lord, then how their desires are fulfilling? They are also they are having so many desires, and their desires are also fulfilling, no? So, who's fulfilling their desires?
Well, ultimately we should know one thing, that the desires which are fulfilled for living entities, ultimately they are fulfilled by Krishna only, but through the agency of universal administration. So different demigods, the people worship different demigods, they perform different yajnas, and those demigods give them the result of their sacrifice or their karmas. So if somebody has the desires fulfilled, that means the person has worked for it, has done some karma.
Okay.
And therefore the demigod function and fulfill his desire.
Okay. Got it. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I think we have no more questions, then we can stop today's call. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. Pancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu